am Terry Griffin. I'm an economist with the Division of Agriculture in the Little Rock State Office. And I will speak about the planting dates for rice and soybean farms. But really what I'm speaking about is how we're using the rice and soybean research verification data for farm management decision making. And I'll get started with that. The research verification programs, if you're not familiar with those, it's a public demonstration of research-based recommendations in actual farming environments. Many of you probably have visited verification fields sometime in the 25 plus years of history since they've been conducted. I think 1983 is when rice started. There's been 318 rice fields in the program and 472 soybean fields. 33 counties in the state of Arkansas out of the 75 counties have had at least one verification field. Thus far, most of the analysis that's been conducted from the verification fields have been for the current year only. And what we wanted to do was ask, is there something we can do with all 25 plus years of data that would be useful to farmers in the industry of the state? So what I wanted to do is give an example of how we're using the verification database in 25 plus years. And the way we're going to handle that in this demonstration is with planting dates. This graph shows the number of fields planted by week since 1983. The soybean is in blue bars and the rice is in red bars. The soybean only includes soybean fields that were in rice fields the previous year. So I've sorted out soybean to the point where I can assume it's in a soybean rice rotation. We did this by week of the year. I know this is a little confusing. So week 13 is about the week of March 23rd. Week 21 is about May 20th, and week 25 is about June 17th. The idea here is that most of the rice fields in the verification program have been planted in the month of April, and soybean it kind of starts at the end of April and goes all the way in through the end of June. So the question is, how can we gather data from this database to say anything about what how planting dates affect yield or the yield potential by planting date? And these are the results for rice and soybean. Rice again is in red bars and blues and soybean. And these are not absolute numbers. We can't just say that we expect a certain percentage if we plant a certain week. But the idea is, we sort of have a plateau for rice up until the second, third week of May, and then it starts decreasing relative to the earlier in the year. We have a nice little stair-step reduction in yield potential for rice. Soybean has something similar. It has sort of a plateau early on, and then a steady decrease in potential yield. The reason this is important for a lot of farms is, especially if they're not tied into a one-to-one rotation of rice and soybean, is trying to determine which is the appropriate crop to plant given the time of the year, given the amount of equipment we have. It's not just the yields, but also the ratios of rice to soybean prices, the input costs, and so forth. So the practical application of this from a farm management decision-making standpoint is in optimizing the use of farm machinery, which leads us to the question, are we over-equipped, are we under-equipped for a given number of acres for the given land that we have? There's a lot of things that go into this decision. Yield potential by plant harvest date that I just went through, the type of farmland we have, what crops can be grown. A big one is the probability of being able to work in the field. And I'm going to show a graph here in a minute about days suitable for field work, available labor, available machinery, and other requirements such as crop rotations, ratios of crop prices, variable and fixed costs. I mentioned days suitable for field work. This is data that was collected from USDA, National Ag Statistics Service, from 1985 through, I think this is up to 2008. And The line at the top is what we'd expect in a good year. I guess it's a yellow line on the screen. Blue would be what we'd expect in the average year, and red in a bad year. The y-axis has a number of days per week that we're expected to be able to work in the field. Blue again is average, but I'm not too concerned about what I can do in an average year. If I'm making farm management decisions, I want to know what I can do in a bad year. Do we have enough equipment to be able to plant, harvest, do all the tillage in a bad year? Which could be the red line or somewhere between the red and blue line. The red line is defined as, if you have 100 years, it's the 15th worst year. There's 15 years that could be worse, but a lot more that could be better. And this is for the whole time period. The graphs I've showed so far have just been from March 23rd through end of June. If we put these on top of each other, this is going back, adding the yield potential for rice and soybean, along with the days suitable for field work. We can see that in the springtime, early spring, let's say late March, early April, we have fewer days per week that we're expected to be able to get into the field. And this blue line is the average, what we expect. It's not a bad year, it's an average year. But then it kind of hovers around 5 days per week. Look on the right hand side for the number of days per week for the line, for days suitable for field work. By the time rice is starting to reduce in yield potential, we're starting to have about 5.5 days per week that we can expect to have. The point is, when there's a trade-off between being able to get in the field with a certain amount of equipment, the probability of being able to work in the field due to weather issues. I know this is a brief overview of this idea, but we wanted to show you what we've been doing with the verification data set. I've worked closely with Brad Watkins and Bob Stark, who are also economists, and Stuart Runzik, and who has really helped to take this information to the RICE Technical Working Group and to a few other places. And we're kind of working as a team on this project. If you have any questions or comments, this is my telephone number and email address, and I'd be happy to chat with you about this or hear your comments about using this, maybe taking this data set to the next level.